Welcome to a special bonus episode of Gaming Ride Home. I am Kyle Hilliard, but the more important person on this episode is Ed Fear, the director of the Picross murder mystery game Murder by Numbers. I have an unhealthy obsession with Picross puzzles, so I wanted to talk with Ed Fear about mashing up Picross-style puzzles with a murder mystery visual novel that takes inspiration from Phoenix Wright, and also ask him about his Twitter header image. I wanted to ask you, I was looking at your Twitter account, and your Twitter header, is that the scene from 30 Rock where Tina Fey's character has to, like, eat the sandwich?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I love that. Like, that scene is, I love that scene because, just to get off on a tangent right at the start, like, I was watching 30 Rock, I was like, this is a good show, I like Tina Fey, this is very funny, but that scene, I was like, this woman's an amazing actor. Like, she ate a sandwich in like 2 seconds for the sake of this one gag. I was like super fan from then on.
I don't know where she puts it when she's doing it. Like, how is she digesting it? Like,
it's incredible.
But she does it so well. Like, it's such a good piece of physical comedy.
It's amazing.
To be doing that and also be shouting, "I can't have it all,"
yeah.
which I think that's my favorite bit of it. Yeah, do you know, I've been thinking. I was literally thinking about a week ago that I should probably change my header picture to something a bit more professional or like relevant to Murder by Numbers or something. But I just can't. I can't bring myself to change it.
Thanks for agreeing to do this. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Always happy to talk.
Ed Fear, what is your title on Murder by Numbers? Are you director?
Director, yeah.
Okay, great. And what is your development history? What did you work on before Murder by Numbers?
I've worked on a lot of games that have not been very successful or very well known. I worked on probably the two most high profile things are The Swords of Ditto, which was a game that Devolver published last year or the year before, I can't remember now. But I was the writer on that. And the other thing that everyone knows, obviously, is Hatoful Boyfriend. For Hatoful, it was basically just kind of getting the deal started, kind of chatting with Moa and getting the rights to it. And then I did kind of a bunch of early forensic design and a bit of translation, but not really a huge amount of input. But that is kind of where my relationship with Moa started, which has obviously led to Murder by Numbers in a way. Beyond that, I've worked on a lot of I worked on a game with Square Enix Japan called Heaven Strike Rivals, which I was kind of the lead writer for, and a bunch of other things kind of in various roles, really. I've always been somebody who just kind of adapts to whatever's needed. But these days I mostly focus on writing and design.
And I also want to know, what is your history with the Picross? I guess you could call it a genre, or maybe like just a puzzle style. Like, when did you discover Picross? Are you as obsessed with Picross as I am?
Yes, is the answer. I am. I think probably my first ever experience with it would have been when they released the first Picross game on the DS. And I played that. I don't know what caused me to try playing that, but I played it and I was just immediately hooked. And it was about that time that I came up with the concept of Murder by Numbers, or well, I say the concept, I mean the very, very high level concept of kind of, basically I remember just kind of sat there playing Picross and just thinking, you know, how could the image that you get from completing this be useful in some other way? Literally the first thing that came to mind, probably because that was also the time when I was playing a lot of Phoenix Wright and games like that, was, they're usually objects. So what if it was a clue in a mystery? And it just kind of all went from there, really.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, that actually, I had my next question that I had written down. You kind of already answered here, but I was going to ask you, like, what came first? Like, I want to make a murder mystery game, or I want to make a Picross game? And it sounds like it was kind of somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I've ever wanted to make a murder mystery game, to be perfectly honest with you, because they're very difficult to write. But it was just that I think it really was the Picross that came first, and then this just felt like the best possible fit of using that Picross mechanic in a way that actually meshed, with the other part of the game. The thing I found is, like I said, that was about 10 years ago, and I remember pitching it at the studio that I worked at that point, and they weren't really very interested in it. And I just have spent the last 10 years just being like convinced that somebody else was going to do this. I was like, I can't have been the only person to have this, like, to have this idea. Like, why hasn't someone else done it?
I mean, that was definitely my reaction when I saw the trailer for the first time as someone who played a ton of Picross. I was like, oh, yeah, why isn't this being mashed up with other sort of genres and things like that? Like, this makes a lot of sense,
Yeah, well, it's certainly in the last year there seem to be a few more games that are doing this. I'm not sure why. I think it might be because of the Switch Picross games being a lot more easy to get, I guess, in a sense, in that, like, on the DS, if you wanted to play a Picross game, you had to drop like $30-$40 on a game, and now you just have to you can just spend like $10 on the eShop and get a Picross game. But yeah, there are certainly a few more that are kind of trying to mix it in with other games. I know there's a game coming out this year called Pixel Puzzle Makeout League, which is kind of trying to combine it with a dating game, I think. And I'm super interested in that because obviously I love Picross, and I want other people to be doing this because I know all of the answers to Murder by Numbers.
You want to play Murder by Numbers without having any knowledge of, right? Like,
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I want to have the experience that everyone else is having right now. So hopefully it's something that will kind of continue to kind of keep going.
So it's funny because I have a similar story where I saw the original Picross, wasn't super familiar with it. I think I had some magazine, I think maybe it might have even been Game Informer before I was a writer for them. I think they had Mario's Picross on their top 100 games of all time.
Okay.
And I was like, well, let me try out this new thing. And I like you, fell in love immediately. And I'm curious, like, have you kept up with Picross all these years? Do you play all the E2 games and stuff like that?
I didn't play many of the ones on 3DS. I played some of them, but certainly the Switch ones I have all of them. I even have the weird Kimono Friends Picross one, which I don't like very much. But I also have a lot of the third party ones. Like I do absolutely love playing it. I mean, I haven't played any recently because of Murder by Numbers. I think I've kind of Picrossed myself out for a little bit, but I'm looking forward to getting back into it at some point soon.
Did you play Picross 3D or 3D Round 2?
Yes, I played Picross 3D and I loved it.
Okay, well,
I thought it was so clever.
Important debate among, like, some of my friends who play Picross.
Yeah.
Which do you prefer, 3D or 2D?
Oh, I think I prefer 2D, but I do really like 3D. I think there's something.
I always argue for 3D. I love 3D so much.
I think there's something about having to like keep swiping to like move the object around is a little bit annoying, perhaps. Whereas like 2D Picross, you just got that D-pad and the buttons, and you can just kind of it feels a bit more, I don't know, zony maybe, because you can just like go through it,
So in terms of the story for the game, I think it's pretty clear that Phoenix Wright is an inspiration. Do you think it's just because, like you mentioned earlier, you were kind of playing Phoenix Wright when you sort of discovered an appreciation for Picross?
I think probably, yeah. I mean, the original Phoenix Wright trilogy is one of the one of the best written, trilogies in video games. Like, I think it's insane, and it's actually been quite a surprise to me, and I realize that I'm very naive for this. I've been very surprised at the parallels that people have drawn between Murder by Numbers and Picross and Phoenix Wright. Like, obviously the inspiration for a lot of the mechanics comes from Phoenix Wright, but me taking away the bits that I didn't really enjoy from the series, and obviously we also take it like a thing. We take a lead from it for the tone of the game as well. But like, to me, the idea of trying, people were saying that it was expecting it to be like a Phoenix Wright spiritual successor. And to me, that was terrifying. When people started saying that, I was like, how, why would I want to make a spiritual successor to something that's already perfect, And like, without wanting to throw too much shade, even Capcom find it hard to make modern Ace Attorney games that are as good as those kind of original three, So like, I was kind of a little bit, I was a little bit terrified by that. But yeah, I certainly wanted to take a lot of inspiration from it. But, at the same time, there are a lot of reasons why it's not exactly like that. Like, there's a lot of reasons why Honor isn't a lawyer and why there aren't courtroom segments, was because I wanted it to be fairly distinct, and just rather take inspiration from Phoenix Wright.
Yeah, and one of the questions I had for you was about Honor specifically. Like, I love that the first puzzle that you solve in the game is you find, what is it, a tampon, and
yeah.
like, it really sets, like, I maybe tone's not the right word, but it's very much like, okay, this is a story about a woman from a woman's experience. Can you talk about why it was important for you to have the game be about a woman from a woman's point of view?
Yeah. So, as a writer, as a person, actually, I'm just generally more interested in women. Like, most of my friends are women. And I've often found that from like a storytelling perspective, I feel like there are a lot of interesting stories about women that aren't being told, especially in games. I didn't really want to focus too much on it because obviously I'm not a woman, and I felt like if we wanted to tell a story about being a woman, then I would want to get a woman to write it. But that particular that first puzzle is something that I really focused on for a long time. It was one of the first ideas I had, actually. Once we'd come up with the concept, it was like the first scene I wrote, I think. And the reason for it is that, yes, I wanted to very quickly set the tone and basically set an explanation that this wasn't going to be your average Picross game, So that was definitely a part of it. The other thing was that I obviously needed a way to get across that Scout's sensors weren't working. So the idea of mistaking something kind of came from there. So that's the reason why we kind of went for that. But also, it's also partly from I remember playing like the original Life is Strange, and seeing a tampon machine in the girls' bathroom that you go into, and being like, why have I never seen that in a game before? Do you know, like, it's such a normal thing. And I have a lot of very frank discussions with my female friends about things like that. So it was also very inspired by them. There were a number of times when we considered removing it, but it was actually all of the women on the team were always really keen for it to stay. So there were a few times where I wavered, but they gave me the confidence to kind of go with it.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I think they were right. I think you guys made the right call. It was a good way to start the game for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there was a real risk that it could have been misconstrued as like, being like a really immature attempt at humor, and we did originally have something that came after that I then removed. But yeah, I think luckily it seems like most people have kind of taken it the right way. So I'm really happy about that.
The game very clearly takes place, was it 1996, I think,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Is there, do you just have affection for that period of time, or?
It's 100% down to the fashion. I love 90s fashion, and I needed, at the very beginning, I needed a way to ensure that this game would stand out visually, because I knew that we had limited resources, and I knew that visual novels tend to look very similar. You know, you've got those two character portraits, a backdrop, and a text box, right? Every visual novel basically looks like that. So I needed a way that within those elements we could stand out enough that if you saw a screenshot, you would know that it was from this game. So I was just kind of trying to think of ways, and the whole 90s thing just came to me because my friends were wearing a lot of double denim at the time, and I just thought it looked great. So I kind of just jumped on that and thought, oh, you know, this could be a really nice way of visually distinguishing ourselves. And also there was a little element of that it felt nice to set a detective story in a time where you didn't have a smartphone, because it feels like smartphones are like, now that we have the access to the world's knowledge in our hands, it feels like there's not really an excuse for a lot of the stuff that detective stories do anymore. So yeah, that also just kind of played into it a bit, I think, and that would really fit what we wanted to do.
I mean, this is a good final question, but how are you feeling about the release? How's the game doing? Is it nice to finally get it out there and be done?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. We've been, you know, myself and the main writer Murray have been working on it. We had been working on it for almost 2 years, so it's always nice to get that out, you know, and have people seeing what you've been working on for so long. So it's great, and the reception has been amazing, far beyond what I anticipated. I try not to look at.
I lost you for a moment. You were saying that you try not to look at, I'm assuming, reviews?
No, I'm obsessively looking at reviews. I try not to look at the sales figures, so I don't have easy access to them. I can ask for them, but I'm trying not to at the moment. So hopefully it's selling as well as the reception is, but I don't really know at the moment. At the end of the day, I made it for myself. It was what I wanted to play, so I'm just really glad that there are other people that want to play it as well.
Yeah, cool. Well, Thanks so much. Thanks again.
Great. Okay, no worries. Thank you.
You have a good one. Again, that was Ed Fear, director of Murder by Numbers, which is available right now for Switch and on PC.